Hi, my name is Jenny Fleischer, and I feel like I am a good critical thinker. For this video presentation, I'm going to be discussing a recent event where I felt like I was an effective critical thinker. So, the problem that I faced was that this past 4th of July, my 6-month-old puppy Shayna had gotten loose while fireworks were going off. It was about 9 o'clock at night. Fireworks were going off like every other house. There were neighbors putting off fireworks. So the lenses or filters that I had prior to my puppy getting loose was that my dogs are here right now, actually. Girls! I'm sorry. Let me show. Here. Here's my puppy, Shayna. She's a big girl now. But this is my girl. Alright. So, the lenses or filters that I had prior to Shayna getting loose was that dogs only go missing on the 4th of July if their owners keep them outside while the fireworks are going off, which clearly isn't the case, and you will find that out when I continue to tell the story of what happened. So first, I'm going to explain this more using some of the elements of critical thinking. So I have a puppy, and I'm living with my parents right now. They have 2 dogs, and they are absolutely crazy. So, let me just get them out of this room. Girls, come on, girls, come on. Go play. Okay, I am so sorry about that. Okay, so the point of view for this issue is that it was my personal point of view. The purpose for discussing this issue is to explain how my opinion on dogs getting loose on the 4th of July has changed. The question at issue was what could we have done differently to prevent Shayna from getting loose in the first place? So the implications that I had, like I said, dogs only get loose on the 4th of July if they're kept outside while fireworks are going off, and I also just kind of felt that it was careless owners who would be the most likely to lose their dogs. And my parents and I are not careless dog owners at all, so that definitely changed my perspective. So the information about this event is that Shayna was actually inside with the other dogs while the fireworks were going off, but my dad had started to open the front door to peek outside to look at the fireworks. And she saw the door opening, and she pushed her way out down the street, bolted out of the neighborhood, and was gone. So the main concept that I learned from this event is that the people in my community are a lot nicer and a lot more helpful than I would have ever imagined. There were literally hundreds of people that shared the Facebook posts that I made in various groups. And there were also strangers reaching out to me saying, like, hey, I'm going to go drive through your neighborhood right now and look for Shayna, and I'll let you know if I see anything. That took me by surprise. I didn't think anybody would go out of their way for me if they didn't know me or my family. And so the conclusion that I had from this event is that the next time that fireworks are going off, I am going to make sure that I keep Shayna in a locked room with me to keep her from pushing her way out. As you had seen when I held her up, she's not very small. She's like 55 pounds right now. She's a big girl and she's a lot of muscle and she can really just push her way out. We're doing puppy classes and training classes with her, which should also help with keeping her from bolting out again. And we ended up actually getting these special GPS tracking collars for all of the dogs so that if, God forbid, one of our dogs gets loose again, we'll be able to just pull up our phone and track them. So, as we know, there are 7 standards of critical thinking, and I'm going to now go through those and how they relate to the issue that I faced. And as I had mentioned, the issue that I faced was that my puppy Shayna had gotten loose and was lost. So there were various things that I did immediately and the next day to try to relocate Shayna. First thing that I did was, so I was upstairs in my room watching TV and I heard commotion going on downstairs, and then my mom hollered up at me saying that Shayna had gotten loose. And without hesitation, I jumped out of my bed, I bolted down the stairs, out the door, I didn't even put shoes on, I didn't grab my phone, I didn't get which, like, I definitely should have put on shoes, I definitely should have gotten my phone, or at least a flashlight, but I didn't care. I just needed to find her. Like, I knew very well how scary fireworks are for dogs, and this was Shayna's first time experiencing fireworks, and she was just out and she was loose, so I acted without a second guess. I stayed out until like midnight searching for Shayna by foot, and I also went around in my car and I talked to every single neighbor that was outside to ask them if they had seen a white dog run by. Some people had seen her, some people hadn't, so we had been able to get a good idea of the route that she took throughout the neighborhood, as there were some streets that I went down, nobody had even seen her run by. So when we weren't able to locate her that night, the next day I went around and I hung up various like lost posters with her picture in the neighborhood and in like other neighborhoods around. I went to the local police department as well as the fire department to give them a poster, tell them to keep an eye out. And I also stopped, there was a mailman going through our neighborhood, and I went up to them, I gave them a poster just so that they would be aware if they saw a dog anywhere loose. So I felt like I was very clear with the poster as well as the Facebook posts that I made with the description of the events that took place, where Shayna had last been seen, what time she was seen, as well as her weight, her age, the type of dog that she is, and in that sense I felt like I was very accurate in describing her and what went on. So one thing that was of importance and relevance of this event is that when a dog is lost, pretty much time is of the essence. There's a lot of coyotes in the area that I'm in, and not to mention she could have been hit by a car, or somebody could have found her wandering around, taken them, and just said, hey, this is a pretty dog, I'm gonna keep this dog for myself. Like, there's not everybody is very honest, unfortunately. I trusted Shayna more than I trusted the people in my community initially. I kind of assumed that she would find her way back home. And I assumed that if anybody were to find her, that they would, I just assumed the worst of it. I thought if a bad person were to find her, that they would use her as like a bait dog for dog fighting. Like, my mind was not not incredibly rational, but at the same time, I feel like it was such an urgent situation that it was appropriate to be as extreme of thinking that I was. So I felt like I was very sufficient with getting the word out in the surrounding neighborhoods and the public. I also went to her veterinary office, and I gave them a poster. Like, everybody was aware of her being missing. The breadth of the situation is that every hour that passed would make the chances of me finding her more slim. She's a young, strong dog. She could have run miles away. She could have gotten hit by a car. She could have gotten picked up by somebody. Like, there's just so many different variables that had to be considered. So the precision that I took to find her, in my opinion, was very high because, as I said, I was very clear and accurate with my description of the event, what time she had gotten lost, where she was last seen, what she looks like, all of that. In the end, this really nice woman had actually stumbled upon Shayna on her property just a few miles away. She found her laying on a gravel path, and Shayna couldn't walk. What ended up happening was she must have run through either fireworks as they were coming down or fireworks when they were going up, because her paw pads, all 4 of her paw pads, were just completely raw and like torn up and blistered and just bleeding, and the bandana that she was wearing was actually saturated in glitter, so we know that she had some contact with fireworks at some point. And so the way that this woman got in contact with me is that Shayna's name tag has my phone number on it, and she called and she told me that she had found Shayna, and I was so grateful for that. I had been literally crying nonstop since she had been missing, and I feel like I didn't waste any time on getting the word out about her being missing. I was either walking around the neighborhood or I was hanging up signs, I was looking, I was talking to neighbors, I was very proactive with this whole event. And in the end, funny enough, the woman that had found her didn't even come across any of the posters or the Facebook posts. But after the fact, I had made a post updating like the community on that a really nice woman had found Shayna and all of that, and I posted it in a local community group, and that woman was actually a part of that group, and she commented on it, and we're Facebook friends now, and she like keeps up with the pictures that I post of Shayna, and she's really nice. So I feel that I was successful and effective and proactive in my actions and critical thinking. I took this very seriously, and hopefully it will never happen again. But my perspective has definitely changed on dogs that get lost during the 4th of July. Like, we kept her inside, and we're very mindful and careful of our dogs, and the fact that she got loose was just totally unpredictable. But it had a happy ending because we did get her back. We took her to the vet immediately after finding her, and they got her fixed up with antibiotics and medications and stuff, and she's perfectly fine now. And that is my story.